Major Applewhite as a head coach, take two. It's a Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. As promised, we have at least one of the two scheduled-ish football head coaches. Major Applewhite in his second stint as a head coach, in his second year as South Alabama head coach in year number 5, joining us. And this ended up being a great conversation. We started at the end, so to speak, of last season. Great coaching job in the bowl game. Quarterback is hurt, running back in the portal, wide receiver going pro. And a lot of guys stepped up. We talk about that. We also talk about the timing of the portal. They played in the first bowl game. How did he deal with that? What did he learn about going from OC to becoming head coach? Second time in a row he's done that. Not moving on to take another head coaching job. So he got promoted at Houston, got promoted at South Alabama. What's he doing dealing with the portal? All right. And he's got a story about that. And then the expectations here in 2025. He's got Gio Lopez and himself. They're together again for the third season. So expectations are high. He is the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. He is Major Applewhite, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. As promised, we have a Sunbelt football coach. He is Major Applewhite. He is in his second season as the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. I think he's in his fifth season in Mobile, if I could do math. My understanding is that there would be no math. So I appreciate his time. Thank you for hopping on, Coach. Well, this is going to be like a TV show. We're going to start at the end first because you guys did a masterful job in the bowl game, beating Western Michigan. Quarterback was hurt. One of the running backs was in the portal. Wide receiver was getting ready for the pros. And you guys put up almost 600 yards of offense. Tell us how you got ready for the bowl game, because you beat Western Michigan, and that coach is doing a great job up there. But what an offensive show you guys did with basically a bunch of backups.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why. I think the first reason why is you have a good staff that's focused on winning the ball game. During that time period, in all honesty, the head coach is recruiting his own players, trying to retain players as the portal's starting. You're spending a lot of time on the phone in the portal trying to talk to kids, set them up on visits. The portal had opened on the 9th. We played on the 14th that Saturday. So we had 5 days where we were in Montgomery working on winning a game while everybody else is recruiting. So, my day was kind of split in half. Once the practice ended, and it was all recruiting from that point on. So you need a great staff to go kind of carry the rifle, so to speak, in terms of the execution, the game plans, because you're not able to put as much time on it during that portal time period. The second thing as to why we did that is I think we learned some lessons in the previous 2 bowls, the Western Kentucky Bowl in New Orleans and the 68 Ventures Bowl, about how we need to treat this time period and when it's time for the kids to kind of lift weights and do finals, and when it's time to turn the page and get ready for who we're getting ready to play in the bowl game. And I thought we've done a better job of that the last 2 years with Kane as head coach and this year. And then the third thing is you got to have some players.
You're right.
And it's not in order. All 3 of those things work together, but you've got staffs, you've got a good schedule, and the players are excited for that opportunity. And it's kind of a blessing. It's better than it happened in the second quarter. You're able to sit in the game plan from the end of the Texas State game. When Fluff is not going to play, you're able to get your mind right, Kentrell and PJ Martin, and understand what's going on. When Jamal Pritchett's not going to play, you know what to do, Anthony Eager. And there was a lot of those situations that was helpful. Chris Wallace had a couple weeks to play nickel instead of moving from safety to get down there when Jordan Scruggs took off. So, those are things that, that's what I see. I appreciate the compliment, but we all know, hell, there's about 180 of us all around this program, from trainers to head coaches to, everything. So all of those people have to be focused on a good schedule, understand their opportunity. I thought the coaches did a great job of explaining, hey, this is next man up mentality. This is college football now. Free agency's all over the place. We don't know when it's going to happen. it's your turn to shine. And, I think you kind of want to put something good on the board before we get into spring practice. So
Mm,
this is a great opportunity for you to, even though you thought it was going to be a competition in the spring because some
right.
people have left, you got a chance to kind of put yourself at the, in the lead position, the pole position, and be number one. So all those things went together. I thought Rob did a great job with Bishop. I saw him get better. Robbie Zell, I'm talking about our offensive coordinator who went to Wake Forest, did a great job last year. I thought that kid got better as the year went on. He was thrown into a rocky situation week 2, had some
Right.
games, Georgia Southern, Texas State, where he came in, tried to help us, and then finally got that complete start and preparation, and you saw him perform at a real high level in the bowl game. So all those things, helped contribute to us being successful in the last one.
Yeah, so it wasn't like he had not played all season, right? He did get some playing time. And so is that easier to prepare knowing what he can and can't do because he
Mhm.
had seen the field and now we can pare
Yeah,
the playing book down to say, all right, we know what you can. And
that's right.
also he can tell you what he's good at and what he
That's
prefers
right.
not to do.
That's right. That's all of that. It's all
Right.
right. I've seen, we kind of square peg round hole this thing. All right, but when he did this opens up a whole nother door of things that he can do in,
Right.
in this realm. And then just the idea of having, not a 3-day work week. You got 6 days to get ready for these guys. I think that it really helped, getting into the game plan. And I don't mean it from a standpoint like Bishop needed those extra 6 practices. Man, he really struggled.
No,
No, that's
no,
not the way I meant it at all.
no.
He does really well. It's just if you've got an A student and he's got 3 extra days to study when he normally has 3, like my gosh, you
Sure.
ought to feel really good about the test.
Right.
So that's kind of the way I felt, and that's why he played so clean. He played really, really clean. He got people lined up, so that was positive to see. And there was a lot of guys who had that opportunity. I was proud of Chris Wallace. It was tough on the freshman kicker, but he came in and got settled in as the game went on. But there was a lot of guys like that, across the board.
Well, who gave you, and we're talking with Major Applewhite, head coach of South Alabama Jaguars. It's Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Who had the biggest I told you so with Jeremiah Webb? Was it you? Was it Jeremiah Webb? I mean, 182 yards on 6 catches. Someone had an I told you so after that
Yeah.
ball game.
He's a really good player. He
Yeah.
is a really good player, and he has worked his tail off to get in that position. And in years past, we've had some really good guys like Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Wayne and Colin Lacey and Devin Voisin's been a part of that wide receiver course. So we've always had a stable group, and he he just worked himself into a great position with Coach Petrino. And I want to give both of those guys the credit that they deserve because of the hours and days. The hours actually, if I start doing all the math right, it's several days
Right.
that these guys spent together on Sundays, Saturdays, non-practice days, working together, one-on-one meeting, those type of things. And Jeremiah he's different from the standpoint when he sets his mind. He's we all have people we know like this, but at a young age in college, when he sets his mind on something, it's going to get done. I've seen him academically. I've got a C in this class. I'm getting an A. I'm not going to play. Watch me. I mean, he's just
Mhm.
very, very determined. And everybody in that locker room, coaches, everybody knew he could make all those plays. It's just a matter of whether they could get called and the coverages could match, and he could get a chance to make them.
All right, just to wrap it up on the bowl game, you brought up the timing. I could be wrong, but you may have played in the first bowl game,
We were,
period.
we were.
How did you find that timing out? You said the portal opened up just before that, but then you had all the rest of it after that to concentrate on
Yeah,
that. How did you find that timing to be?
it was. But like you said, there was the hard part is you get behind initially, but then you start to kind of catch up, and then some other people who are having some bowl issues, they're kind of dealing with these things too. There's always a silver lining if you find it, and for us, that was what you just mentioned is like, all right, at least while everybody's deciding to get into the portal and they're not fully visiting and making decisions on the 10, 11, 12, 13, we're not getting a chance to call them because we're out here practicing. Now we can still find our days and we're still doing it. We just don't have the full 24 hours,
Right.
to do that. We're a little bit behind on scheduling these guys. So let's, as soon as we get to that hotel at noon, let's get down there to the ground floor, get in the lobby, and let's start, pulling out the phones and get on. But once we got through that game, I mean, I still tell people ask about how's the portal, like how's it affected. I was like, guys, I pull it out of Montgomery at 12:38. Now I hate to mention this, but I got into my driveway at 2:46, so I was moving on the way home. But I picked up a kid from the airport. Uh, at 9:30. So we played a game, and 9 hours later, I'm picking up a kid from an airport,
Right.
on an official visit. So that's the world that we're living in.
Wow. Yeah.
And that kid, his team may have had a bowl game that he decided not to play in.
Right.
So it's just it's bizarre. It's different.
Yeah.
We I'm not going to be the grandpa that says we got to do, but we have to.
Sure.
I mean, this is
Right.
the toothpaste is out of the tube. It's crazy. There's
It's insane.
stuff like this shouldn't be happening where you're in the middle of finals, you're in the middle of graduation, you're in the middle of championship season,
Right.
and you're in free agency. It'd be great to see Tom Brady in round 1 play for the Patriots, and then in round 2 see him play for another team. It just makes no sense.
It's crazy.
It's
No, I
asinine.
mean, yeah.
It's asinine. I can't believe they can't look upward and see an NFL and go, oh, that's how you do it.
Right.
It's just it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Izzo is like, I can't worry about next year. I got to worry about this year. We're still
You got to
playing.
worry about the
Portal's
next
open.
month.
Yeah.
You've got to worry about the next month. Like they can't. You haven't had the goalposts in the same place for a 6-month period. They keep moving, and so there's no blue book. There's no experienced guy that you can call. Like, how do you handle this, coach? Well, shit,
Right.
well, hell, Major, I don't know. This is brand new to me too. So there's no calling your colleagues, your experienced people. It's just everybody's adjusting on the fly.
Let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion with the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars, Major Applewhite. He'll talk about what adjustments he made becoming a head coach for the second time, moving up from offensive coordinator, and the roller coaster of a season that they had at South Alabama in 2024. We'll do that after we tell you about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery and bourbon. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege. Half off your first year. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's continue our conversation with the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. He is Major Applewhite. He talks about taking over, getting promoted again. Same situation as Houston, but what did he learn the second go-around at South Alabama? And what about that roller coaster of a season that he had at the Jaguars in 2024? Yeah. So having said that, okay, so let's take the portal out of it and the NIL, because as you mentioned, you're all learning at the same time. We're talking with Major Applewhite, South Alabama head coach. Same experience though as last time. You were the offensive coordinator at Houston, took over as head coach there. Your offensive coordinator at South Alabama have taken over there. So you didn't move on to take over a new program. What did you learn from those two experiences and how you've had to adjust, knowing that the portal and NIL are part of that, but I want to take that piece of equation out of it.
Sure. There's personal things that, whether it be decision making, timing of decisions, personnel decisions, message to the team, message to the staff, temperament. There's all those personal things that, that I know that I want to be better at, those type of things. Then there's like more strategic, tactical things that I felt like, hey, we did a good job, but maybe we could have been better. We had a number of players drafted from Houston's team. Grant Stewart was a draft pick, still playing in the NFL. Clayton Tune's quarterback for the Phoenix Cardinals. Ed Oliver. I mean, the list goes on. David Anini. Peyton Turner was a first-round draft pick for the Saints. Logan Hall was the first pick the second round. I mean, we had probably about 8 kids drafted, so we were recruiting the right way. But I didn't feel like we were squeezing the rag. I felt like there was better players, more players that we could have gotten in Houston. So that's one thing that as a head coach the second time. I want to spend ample time in recruiting. I want to spend more time talking to my staff about recruits. I want to find the level of depth and how hard we're recruiting kids, and having good meetings that are detailed. That's like I said, there's some personal things, the recruiting part of it, and then there's some ego with it. You don't want to come in and just, kind of slam your hand down and say, this is my way and this is where we're going to do it. And I've been waiting to have the reins and this is the way we're going to do it now. But there's just certain things that you've experienced in your life, whether it be through Mac Brown, who's a Hall of Fame coach, or Nick Saban, who's a Hall of Fame coach, or Dale Weiner, who's getting ready to go in the Louisiana High School Coaches Hall of Fame. I mean, I've worked for 3 Hall of Fame coaches. I've been around some of the best. And so I'm going to lean on those guys, and I'm going to take things from those guys. And I just felt like coming into this job, instead of just rolling out a laundry list of rules and these are the things that we're going to do and we're going to change, um, we'll change them in the time period that they need to be changed.
Mm.
I don't think everything that we were doing to win 7 ball games and win the '68 Venture Bowl, I don't think everything we were doing was broken. Kane and Corey and I had already had discussions and things that we wanted to change, things that we wanted to do with the team, and some of those
Yep.
things that we had discussed, I implemented because I felt like regardless of whether they're here or not, those are things that this team and this building needs. So that's really, after 1 year, I think there's a little bit more of an understanding and expectation in the building. Every month when you're with the new guy, you're wondering, how is he going to handle this part of our job? And all right, now it's this season, it's contract season. How's he going to handle that? Now it's going out and getting new prospective clients. How's he going to handle that? You're just going through everything as a first time with this guy. And so you're kind of, what do I anticipate? And I think there's a little bit better anticipation by the staff, strength staff, players, understand the expectation in the classroom, off the field, in the meeting rooms, on the field, in the weight room, weight gain. I just told guys that's really what I want to get to, is that we all have a sense of pride that there's kind of a way we do things. And
Mhm.
have y'all ever been to that house, where they make you take your shoes off outside and you walk in? We've all been to that house. There's kind of a way they do things in that house. And I want our house to be the same way. There's kind of a way we practice. There's kind of a way we meet. There's kind of a way we get on and off the field. And I want us to take pride in that. So just, how is it different taking over a second time as an offensive coordinator, now as a head coach? Not much, because I thought there were some good things we were doing with Coach Herman too. Um, and you just got to be careful. Having gone through that already, I made sure that if anything like that could happen, people on the other side of the ball have seen you in a role as a offensive coordinator that you're supportive of the defense. You love defense. That's a 19-year-old's brain. That's an offensive guy. He coaches offense. He don't care about defense. Well, I do. I do.
Well,
I would
sure.
like for y'all to hold them to a few points so we don't have to score 100. So I do care about defense. But that's the reality of it. Just taking on this offensive coordinator job, being supportive of the defense, being supportive of players. As a coach, you have to make sure that if you do get that opportunity, now all of a sudden those guys aren't your buddies that you were hanging out with in the hallway. The defensive guys, those are guys that you're coaching, and you got demands and expectations and standards for them. And I think what I learned at Houston, I had a lot of good relationships with players, but I wanted to keep it more structured, I guess. So if this ever did happen, it wasn't like now I've got to re-identify this guy and see him in a different light. And now he's my head coach. So that's more of the approach. I mean, obviously Kane was the head coach, Corey's the defensive coordinator, but I was a big fan of Swarm defense and what they did for 3 years. It was a top 35 defense. I think that was their lowest rating, but usually a top 20, top 25 defense. And then I'm a football guy,
Yeah.
from the standpoint of what wins games, defense.
Right. Yeah.
Defense wins championships. I'm big on that. I understand we don't hold people to 7 and 9 like we did in 1984. I
Right.
get it. It's
Right.
a different brand of defense. Be great in the red zone, get them off the field, get a few turnovers. You held them 24 today. That's damn good in 2025.
Yep.
So I mean, there's those type of things that go into it, and that's really. I mean, that's the bottom line, Dave. Is just there were some personal things I wanted to get better at, in terms of, how we met, talking to players, talking to coaches. There were some recruiting things that I wanted to spend more time on. And then just making sure that you're in a role that when you go from, they change your title, doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you're the head coach, doesn't mean you're a leader, but when they change your title, there's half of the room that said, yeah, this guy's our leader. And there's half of the room that's like, I don't know him. I mean, I'm glad we scored some points, but is he for us? Does he like the defense? Or is he just about scoring points? And I think that helped last year with Rob calling plays and Rob running the room. I would go in the offensive room, but I would spend a lot of time with the safeties. I'd spend a lot of time with the corners and the linebackers, and I would spend most of my time at practice with the defense. And being in that role now, working with the quarterbacks, involved with the play calling and that, I probably won't have that much time, but I think that helped last year having that role with them in that room defensively.
Now, we may have been able to hear reaction to some of that play calling a few years ago. You're going to be on camera play calling this time. We can't have that reaction that we could hear before when maybe the plays didn't go, or you were celebrating. We could say it that way.
Yeah.
When you were not on camera and the plays maybe not going your way, we may have been able to hear the reaction.
Passion.
When you were not on camera. Just saying.
Passion. Yeah, it's just passion.
That's one way of looking at it.
Passion.
All right. Intensity. All right.
Yeah. That's what my wife tells me. I enjoy I appreciate your passion on this.
Now you're going to be on camera. All right. Just
That's all right.
Going to be following you around.
That's all right. I could care less. I mean, they're trying to catch everything they can to sell a buck and sell some more pharmaceuticals. It's all about entertainment. I don't care.
Well, it's going to be entertaining. I'm going to tell you that.
There's no doubt. I love it. But that's why we watch it, right? We want to see people who care. We want to see people who it matters something to. Nobody wants to see some numb person that has, is an apathetic coach. I don't want that.
Well, he's Major Applewhite. He is the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. Let's recap last season because from the outside looking in, it was quite the roller coaster ride. Tough start to begin with, and then Gio got hurt, and then started off 0-2, and then you had some big wins. You went into Lafayette and you took down the Cajuns, and then you had a big lead at home against Georgia Southern, and you let that slip away, and you had some big wins, and you win the bowl game. What was like that being inside the eye of the hurricane? Because it was a roller coaster throughout the whole season.
It was it was what you said it was. It was a roller coaster. There's a lot of things I was proud of. I'm not going to gloss this and spin it and make it, oh man, that was awesome. But you drop your first two ball games, and truthfully, in our minds, when you play as bad as we did on defense in the first game and have some special teams errors, we knew we weren't as experienced on defense, but we compounded with some special teams errors. That was frustrating, But I understood that one with a young defense. I understood it. I wasn't happy with it. And then you go into the next week and I see our defense get better. Now we're playing without our starting quarterback, and Bishop's kind of getting thrown into the mix at the last second. And that was tough, because that was a game that, despite not having your starting quarterback, we still made some critical errors before half that swung the momentum right there at halftime. But I saw us get better on defense. And then there's the 2 weeks where, you score 87 points and all that. And you go and you play App State on the road. And that was
on national TV.
That was the one where I was like, I want to make sure. I think we can be good, but I'm not sure who App is today.
Right.
I don't think that this is what, they're not a bad football team. That's not what I'm saying, but I just don't think this is I don't think this is the 13-0, 12-1 App team, and so then we get, then we've got to go play the Tigers of LSU. So you drop 2, win 2, and then, you're sitting there 2-2, and you're being realistic about what LSU is, and that's not going to be it's going to be tough. It's going to be a daunting task to come out of Tiger Stadium with them.
Come on, healthy.
Then the one at Arkansas State was disappointing. I thought we had a better offense than 14 points.
Right.
I didn't think we did a good job defensively on the last drive, of understanding what they need and how to execute on that drive. And I felt like we let them walk right down the field and kick a field goal, which we did. So that was frustrating. But then there's other moments, like Troy, who has mind control over you. They beat you pretty daggum good for the last 5-6 years. Right. And they're having a rough year, an abnormal year for Troy football. But I mean, they're playing like 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. I mean, I've been in that situation. I don't envy that. I hate that for anybody. But all along, like, this ain't the team. This is not Troy. Like, I know who we're playing, but this is not where they're at. They're not going to be like this. But it was still a good moment for our team. The Lafayette game was a great moment for our team. Georgia Southern was frustrated as all hell, being up 16 with 15 minutes left to go and letting that one loose. those are the ones that, that's what I've been talking to a little bit about our team about, is just our competitive maturity and emotional maturity. And competitive maturity is just signified as you're mature enough that you've been in enough competitive situations to know that it's never over, and you have to play
Right.
through adversity. And your emotional maturity kind of ties into your competitive maturity. There's going to be some ebbs and flows in games. We can't lose our mind. We can't be up 16 and take double moves. I mean, we have to understand what we're trying to protect.
Right.
We have to understand that as coaches, we have to be the adult in the situation, and bring our boys' heads down to earth, get their feet on the ground, and help them understand how to close some of these games. And that's what's frustrating about the Georgia Southern one. Because we lost it in virtually every way. Special teams giving them short fields, fumbling the ball on the kickoff return, defense biting on double moves when you're up 16 points and you should be 30 yards deep and making them earn it. Just very, very immature and competitively immature, emotionally immature in those games. And so challenging our staff and challenging our players to be ready for the moment next time.
I got to ask, I know you've been doing this a long time. How neat was it? How cool is it to be coaching on the sidelines in Tiger Stadium? Because, I mean, for those who don't know, and I'm sure people do, you grew up in Baton Rouge. Not an LSU Tiger fan. He's an Alabama fan growing up, but you still grew up in Baton Rouge. How cool was it to coach in Tiger Stadium on the sidelines as a head coach of an opposing team?
The pregame was fun.
Right.
After the first
Right.
play of the game, when they flipped the ball out the back and he goes 79 yards down to the 1 yard line, the fun was over about 6 seconds
Okay.
into it.
All
But
right.
now, I mean, Dave, it was really good because I got to see some friends.
Sure.
That's the one thing. There's a lot of things I love about this job, but that's one thing that's really cool about this job is a lot of people want to be at these events. A lot of people want to be at these games. And so when you have a chance to play in a venue like Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, where you're from, there's probably 7 or 8 guys that I haven't seen since high school,
Right.
that were out there that graduated from LSU, but they're friends of mine. I got a chance to see them. And you just get to see them in that setting. We used to break into that stadium and play flag football games after church on Sunday. So like, it was just neat to like look at the same, gate over there by the visiting section, opposite the visiting locker room. I was like, that was the gate we used to climb over, and coming out on the field. And I mean, all of that was nostalgic and brought back a lot. And that's the cool part, is being able to share that with your family and your friends and people that you grew up with in Baton Rouge. But I love that experience, and I love that for our kids, our players, young men, and their families. Just the competitor, and you just wish we should have played better than what we did.
Sure. As someone who did not grow up down there, and not the biggest of all Garth Brooks fans, but I'm telling you, between the third and fourth quarter, when Colin Baton Rouge comes on, it hits differently in Tiger
Yeah,
Stadium. I'm
no,
sure you're paying attention to the coaching, but when Colin Baton Rouge comes on between the third and fourth quarters, it hits a little bit differently in Tiger Stadium.
yeah, they've got their fourth quarter song, they've got their fourth quarter deal going, and it's dang impressive. And
It really is.
I grew up an Alabama fan, but if they weren't playing LSU,
Right.
or LSU wasn't playing, I would pull for them all the time. So I've been to 1,000 games in that stadium, and love that place.
Let's take one more time out. We'll come back and wrap up our conversation with Major Applewhite, the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. We talk about the portal and how he deals with it, and we talk about the expectations for 2025. He is back for his 5th season, but he's got Gio Lopez, his quarterback, who's been now together for 3 seasons. I'll do that right after I tell you about Nissan. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear, wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's wrap up our conversation with the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. He is Major Applewhite. He talks about how he is going about dealing with the portal and the advice he is trying to give some of his players. And we talk about those 2025 expectations, they should be sky high with Gio Lopez coming back for his third season. All right, a couple more questions for Major Applewhite joining us, Locked On Sunbelt. How are you dealing with the portal? Because I didn't even want to talk it into existence, but you sort of could see it coming. Fluff was having a great season. Ahmad Hardy from ULM was having a fantastic season. And I didn't even want to talk about it halfway into it because I didn't want to talk it into existence. Gio Lopez coming back. I thought that was a possibility. As a group of five school, obviously we all know the situation. How as a coach are you dealing with it? And where do you not where do you stand on it, because it is here, right. But how do you go about dealing with it when the time comes? Because again, I've been talking about it on the podcast. I hope Fluff got what he wanted, because I'm not sure he ended up at the best program in America.
Right. That's hard for the kids. They've got such a finite time to make the decision that's going to affect their career and their education. And now that's up to them and their families and their representation and how they want to do that. And that's what I tell the guys: the portal is for you. Sure. So if you want to use it, use it. If you feel like you've created value, use it. Some of you who haven't created value will probably be asked to get in it. And that's okay. That's okay. We deal with the portal too, guys. If we create value for ourselves, we get in it. And there's times if we don't create value, our AD puts us in it. Right. So that's I get it. I totally get it. So I'm not upset with you if that's what you want to do. Here's what I ask, guys. Okay, regardless of what we do in life, regardless of our organization or company that we're working for, communication and honesty is paramount. Okay, I don't care what business you get in. If you're getting ready to leave it, I guarantee you, faster than you think, you will be back asking those people for a favor. And so how you leave things is very, very important. And all I ask is honesty. I'm not going to get in your business and tell you, no, you shouldn't go to XYZ. You should go to this school. What I will do for you, if you want me to, and if I think you're screwing yourself up, I will help you with this, is I will find out if these people are serious about you. Because sometimes your representation will tell you what you need to hear. And guess who I know? Not agents. I know coaches. Right. And so if that coach ain't going to take you, I don't care what that agent says, that coach ain't going to take you. So I'll help you if that's what you want. But all I ask is you're dead honest with me. If you're going to get in, let me know. Because all those guys that you dapped up and loved and hugged and all that stuff in the locker room, you're getting ready to pull one over their head. If you just disappear and you don't give the coaching staff a chance to find somebody to replace you, all that, I love you and you're my man and we're friends forever, I don't think I would do that to somebody that if I'm getting ready to leave the team, I'd want to, hey, coaches, I'm getting ready to leave. I think I've created enough value. I think I'm going to be out of here. I know the portal doesn't open for another 3 weeks, but I think that's probably what I'm going to do. So I was just going to give you all a 3-week head start on maybe filling my spot. That's fine. Right. That's normal. That's what people do in the real world. But to clam up and hide and act like we don't know anyway. I mean, we talk to coaches. We go to convention every year. We know when our buddies will tell us, and at this level, there's nothing you can do about it. Hey, Major, I'm going to come pay this guy $200,000 to go run the football. All right. Well, sounds like I need to go get a new back. Like that's the reality of it. So I just ask that you're honest, and I think parents have a real opportunity here to teach their children once they get out of being 22, 23 years old and they have to go get a job. If they're not playing the National Football League, that these lessons that you're getting an opportunity to kind of have the hard conversations with adults are things you're going to do the rest of your life. And you need to learn how to be honest and come forthright. And we've had a lot of kids go through this. And, I wasn't perfect at 19 or 20. I didn't handle all these conversations perfect. I don't expect them to be perfect. I just want us to have an honest conversation and as best we can, try to help each other. These coaches worked hard to put you in a position to play. Of course, you had to do the work, but they spent time away from their families and all those type of things to where you could get on the field and play well. And I'm glad you're playing well. And I'm glad you're going to make more than your mom could make in 5 years combined. I'm all about that. Sure. All about that. This is America, man. If you can do something and make money, I'm all about it. Right. All right. Now, when we get those opportunities, how do we treat the people who've helped us get them? I'm not asking for a pay cut. I'm not asking for you to come back. I'm not asking for 5%. I'm just asking that you be honest with me and help me out because I want to go find the next guy. That's it.
Now, were you one of those guys, I think, because I think there were other coaches in the bowl season were like, we can help you. And you were one of the early ones doing it. And we talked about it with the bowl game. You can play with us. You can't go visit anyways. We're playing now. You can't go visit yet anyways. Yeah. We're going to be done, and you can go visit after.
Yeah. Well, we did that, and I had a young man that he wanted to do that. He did, and I had a long conversation with him, and I was like, you want to play in the game, but you want to get in the portal after the game, and then you are probably going to take that offer. And he was like, yes, sir. And I was like, okay. And then about that Sunday or Monday, we left on a Monday afternoon. I think it was maybe Saturday or Sunday. I was hosting somebody on an official visit, and he called me on the way to this dinner and said, Coach, they want to bring me in this weekend. And I said, the day we're playing, like Friday and Saturday, the 13th and 14th. He was like, yeah, Coach. And I was like, well, that's not going to be possible. And he goes, well, I'll see if they can bring me in Sunday. I was like, okay. Hung up the phone. An hour later or so, after dinner's over, I get a phone call, and Coach, I'm, I think if I wait till Sunday, they're going to take and give this offer and this amount of money to another kicker.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so they're putting the squeeze on you. I don't know if they
Right.
don't like me and they don't want me to win the bowl game because you're a great kicker or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna feel pretty daggone bad about this if you stay and play and
Right.
you lose out on that amount of money.
Right.
Here's what you need to do. You need to call them right now and tell them you'll be on a plane Friday or tomorrow
Right.
and go see them and go sign it. Because you're gonna do it anyway. And I'm gonna have to play the other guy next year anyway. So we might as well just rip the daggum band-aid off. Go sign your deal. Don't lose the money. Don't play in the bowl game. I'll play the other kid, and we'll be fine. We'll win the game anyway.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, it was tough. I was going from a guy who had made all conferences as a kicker, and now I'm telling a true freshman, "Hey, you got to go do this." But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want guys that are sitting there half in, half out. Should I do this? Should I do
Right.
that? I
Right.
get it. I get it. I'm not mad at
Right.
him. I don't expect him to leave that money on the table for me. Are you kidding me? I
Right.
just I felt like there was a young person hurting right there, and they saw a lot of money and they didn't know what to do. And I was like, you know what, damn it, I'll make the decision for you. Call
Yeah.
this people, tell them you're flying tomorrow. Go sign the piece of paper. We'll find somebody else that can kick a football. We're all right,
Right.
And so it
Right.
was, I just think you got to handle all these things individual. And as you kind of put it into perspective, I think maybe 5-10 years ago, Dave, it would have been, how does this affect my football team? How does this affect my football team? How does this affect my football team? And that only.
Right.
But as I've got a 16-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son, it's kind of like, if your 16-year-old daughter in 4 years could make $140,000, what would you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, like, so, that's somebody else's child. And I want to help walk them through it if they want me
Yes.
to. If they
No.
don't want me to, if they want to do it with their agent and mom and dad, that's fine. Go do it with your agent, mom and dad.
No. I
But,
mean, it
but
is.
I
It is.
do know some of these guys, and I can kind of tell
Yeah.
sometimes when you're getting taken advantage of, and I'd love to help you.
It's a down payment for a home. It's their nest egg, right? And obviously, these guys are going to be working. It's obviously not, end of career money. They're not retiring on it, but it is a nest egg. All right, let's wrap things up with Major Applewhite. He's given us plenty of time. Let's talk about 2025 expectations in this era of NIL and portal. I'm a big believer in the quarterback and the same quarterback and the same coach in the same place. You and Gio Lopez have been in the same place for 3 years, although positions have changed. He's a starter, second year now, and you're the head coach, second year now.
Right.
But though you guys have been together for 3 years, same thing basically at Arkansas State. And although it's a change of scenery, we have the same thing in Hattiesburg. With the
Yep.
coach and the quarterback, same two guys are back together. And then we have some odd situations with some talented guys. With we don't know what we're going to get in Louisiana with Walker Howard, and I'm never going to get his name right. It's two last names or two first names, but it's Walker Howard. I saw the kid play high school football. I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
He's back in Lafayette, STM state champion. So there's a lot of talent in the West, coach. And when you get the quarterback back and the coach back, and now you're calling plays, there's expectations are high with you and Arkansas State at the top, and of course you got the defending champion coach and the defending champion quarterback going to Southern Miss. What are your expectations there in 2025?
Win ball games, compete for a championship. I mean, that's always going to be my expectations. They're not going to change. I don't know where we'll be. Once we get through with the portal, it's hard now because I can't tell you. That's the thing that's so weird right now is everybody's been able to kind of talk about their team and what their team's going to look like and how they're looking through spring. And here on April 16th, that's all going to change. So I mean, That's why I don't talk too much about players. Because the player I'm talking about is great today, could not be here in 3 weeks. I am impressed with the way our guys are working. I'm impressed with the physicality, the speed of practice, the volume of practice, the demands we're putting on them. They're responding. I think the guys are learning that they have more in them, pushing them harder in this second year, accepting less. So I'm very pleased with that from that standpoint. But there's the holes that you obviously have to fill. You've got a Senior Bowl wide receiver in Jamal Pritchett that's plus 90 catches, plus 1,200 yards. He's been that kind of guy for us in the slot position. Eager did some great things for us last year. Showed up in the bowl game, played well in the LSU game. But there's just that role. You mentioned Jeremiah Webb, so who's kind of Mr. Steady Eddie, along with Devin Voisin and what was Jamal Pritchett. So filling those two positions. You had a freshman back come in and running for 900 yards. You usually don't have that. Okay, so where's that production coming from? But we've also had guys like PJ Martin, who's been sitting, waiting patiently, came back in great shape, has had a great spring. Our tight ends are back. I think that's a plus for us. Skierski did a really good job with some young tight ends last year, and it's going to be more of their role to play this year. So I'm pleased offensively, starting on that side of the ball because I'm more involved with that. There's a lot of guys coming back from the tight end room, from the running back room, the quarterback room. There's a couple wide receivers missing, and everybody from the O-line has come back. Now, again, in 2 or 3 weeks that can all change, but I feel like there's more experience on that side of the ball. Defensively, we gained our experience last year. And like a roller coaster, there were ups to be able to win that game and close that game like Lafayette. But then there were downs like Georgia Southern to give up 16 in the fourth. But I think we have more competitive experience, which, leads to more competitive maturity, in what we're doing. But that's what I want to see less of defensively with the experience is how are we, responding day in, day out, game in, game out, and not having the up and down production. I thought we steadily got better, but it was, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I thought we got better, but the expectations for us to play with more confidence, fewer busts on defense, and offensively, we need to play like we are an older group. We don't need to settle into games. We need to attack from the get-go.
Do you, as someone now going to be calling the plays, do you have a game manager to help you with situations because you're going to be
Yes.
focused on the player? Oh, you do.
Yes. We got, we have a guy who's working on the book, the analytic book. But I also have some very knowledgeable, experienced guys who coached for a long time that don't have game day duties in terms of a position.
Okay.
Paul Petrino's been a head coach. Broderick Fobbs has been a head coach, but both of those guys are coaching positions. Guys like Doug Roos, who's been with our staff for the last 3 years, he can help me. He's a guy who's been an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. There's not something that he's coaching specifically that day, so he can help me with situations, timeouts, clock management, personnel, those type of things.
All right, because some of that is based. I mean, a lot of times going forward on 4th down is based on call on 3rd down, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, there's and I've done this with Kane before. Called plays, and then it's really no different. It's just somebody communicates with you at the beginning of the drive, and hey, Mage 5 is a go. Okay, so if it's 4th and 5, all right, it's 3rd and 8. Well, normally if people throw the ball trying to get 8 yards. Well, we might slip a run in here, and
Okay.
if we get 9, great, 1st down. If we get 6, all right, well then hell, it's
Okay.
4th and 2.
Do you? Is
So
there a place on the field where you say we're crossing this and we're going for it type of deal?
sometimes before games,
Okay.
we'll look at the analytic book and it'll say, hey, 4th and 3 is a go, or 4th and 1 is a go all the way. Well, guys, if we get punted dead on the -1 and it's 4th and 1 from the 10, I ain't going for it.
Sure.
Okay, because if we don't get it and these guys run the ball for 9, I'm not doing that. All right, so here's the deal. Book doesn't matter till the -30. That's where I'll go for the first 4th and 1. Okay. All right. No, coach, 4th and 2 is a go from the -36. Yeah. And then if we don't get it, then they're kicking a 53-yard field goal. Like, that's silly. All right. So, we'll look at that part, the to-goes in the back end. But for the most part, Dave, the book is pretty daggum good and we play it straight. It's just some of those early to 4th and 1s to go, 4th and 2s to go as the game's going that, guys, I ain't going for 4th and 1 at the -26-yard line and we don't get it. And there's 12 minutes to go in the first quarter and we're down 7-0 and they get the ball to start the second half. Like, that's stupid.
I'm telling you, Kane went for it a couple of times. 4th and 1 on the 29, first possession of the game.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a little bit about what your call is, who your opponent is, and what you feel comfortable doing.
How much pressure is you on that when that's the offensive coordinator is making the
Yeah,
call
I
on
mean,
4th and 1?
but I told Kane at the end of the day, I'm a good soldier. I'll do whatever you ask. you know,
Right.
and we're going to go get the first down.
Sure.
So if that's what you want to do, I will have a call ready. I'll have an extra call ready. You know, you're the head coach, and it's got to feel right for you. So whatever you want.
Right.
You know, we had some conversations in year two. And I say him, and I say us and the offensive staff, and you know, there was kind of everybody took their stars and stripes off and kind of had real talk, and people voiced their thoughts. And this is the way my coach did it when I was in college, and this is the way my coach did it, and this is the way my coach did it. And Kane very diplomatically and politely said, "That's great. This is how we're going to do it here." And we're not going to talk about this anymore. And if we do, we're probably not talking to me about it. You know, so
Got it.
everybody understood exactly how we're going to call things and
Got it.
how we're going to be behind these calls, and how we're going to sell that and market that and put it as a commercial to our team so they buy into being aggressive from that standpoint. And that's the hard part sometimes as a head coach is, you know, not all of those 10 guys at that table see things eye to eye, but
Sure.
dadgummit, when they better be aligned, because the kids that they see it,
Right.
you have no shot. You have no shot. So you better be all on the same page.
He's Major Applewhite, head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. Really appreciate his time. Came on for a long time. Sincerely appreciate it. Look at that smile. We got a smile out of Major Applewhite. That's outstanding.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Coach. Really appreciate it. Continued success in spring practice. We will try to catch up with you sometime in August prior to kickoff. Thank you very much for your time. All right.
Absolutely.
Best of luck.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Had fun. Thank you, man.